I think we're live. Miracle of the internet. I think we are actually live. Are we live? Yes, we are. We are live. Hey, everyone. How you doing today? Let me see what I got here. There we go. Final Cut TV. Final Cut Friday. And today we are going to talk about your top 10 requests for Final Cut Pro, the next version of Final Cut Pro. So the Final Cut Pro has got to be updated, don't you think, in 2022? Peter Kuman says, hi, Richard. How you doing, Peter? What country are you from, Peter? I'm not sure. Tim Whitmore says, live. We are live. Absolutely, we're live. Absolutely. Let me just adjust this a little bit. I have one of those standing desks that have a motor attached to it, so I can adjust the camera up or down depending on a little bit of headroom up above. Try to keep your eyes on the 1/3 line, plus or minus. It doesn't have to be exact. Peter Kuman says, the Netherlands. How you doing? So I think I'm pronouncing your last name correctly, Kuman. That's the way it looks to me, phonetically. I guess that's right. Look, I have a list of top things that I want for Final Cut Pro. I've got 75, 80 things that I've had a running list since Final Cut Pro 5. Not 10.5, since Final Cut Pro 5, I've had a running list. Brandon says, hello, just discovered you from your podcast. Thank you very much. That's fcpradio.com, finalcutproradio.com. I've had that podcast 7 years. 7 years now. 7 years. No vacations, no breaks. I never took a break. I ran all summer long. We'll see how much longer I can keep that up. Don't know for a fact, but we'll see how that goes. So I'll have another episode out in a week or so, within the next week. So we're going to talk about your top 10 things that you'd like to see in Final Cut Pro 10 coming up in 2022. First off, we don't know when there's going to be an update. Just a generic guess would be, here's my friend Tony Gallardo. Well, howdy. Tony was on, I think, the last episode, right? Yeah, I think he was. Tony's my friend. He's my friend that I reach out to when I have Black Magic Resolve questions, because he knows Final Cut and Black Magic both very, very well. So I like, if I have something that stumps me, like, for example, I was working on one project and I didn't know how to copy and paste effects like you can in Final Cut. I did an effect where I had, different screens, different places, and drop shadows and stuff. And in Final Cut, I just save effects preset. So I said, Tony, where is that in Resolve? He said, it doesn't exist. I said, oops, that's not good. I use that a lot, especially if I do two pictures on one screen, picture in picture kind of thing, one large, one small, sometimes upper right, sometimes upper left. The small one has a drop shadow. There's a way to work around it in Resolve, but there's no copy paste effects. I guess that was my point. So you can't tell out there in internet land, but I've redone my office space up here, the studio up here. I've redone it. I have more depth back there than I used to have. The panels used to be more forward. Now they're more in the back. Here's our start. I'm going to keep track of these. I have a page of 101 things I want to see in Final Cut Pro, and the ones that are good, like this one over here, if I see good ones, I'm going to steal them and put them on my page. Batch sync audio to video, like Pluralize, but better, having lots of failures with Pluralize. Resolve has it, and it's good. So is Resolve as good as Pluralize? Is that what you're telling me? Resolve's batch sync audio to video, is it as good as Pluralize? One of the apps I had that I bought over Christmas holidays, between Christmas and New Year's, is this app called Topaz Video Enhance AI. Let me tell you something. That is fantastic. I'm working on two documentaries right now that have legacy video footage. And this Topaz, okay, it's a noise reduction. They have different presets you can choose, algorithms for noise reduction, different ways. But at the same time it reduces noise, it upscales the video. In my experience, every single time, the upscaled version looks better than the original version. Every single time. So if I have a standard def frame, what I do is usually 200%. So it's like, 4 times the resolution. Looks fantastic. So I can take that and use it in an HD timeline. Tony says what he wants to see is rolls effects for both video and audio. So the video is interesting, Tony. I think you're the first person I think said that. So rolls effects for video is interesting. How would they implement the audio version? With a mixer? Audio mixer of some sort? Like some kind of a channel strip thing or whatever they're going to do? You just apply the roll to the channel rather than putting it on a compound clip and breaking it apart and going in and doing things, coming back out, stepping in, stepping out, stepping in, stepping out. Very clunky the way it works right now. It's very, very clunky. In Logic, of course, you just pull up a channel strip and add an effect to the channel strip. Anything in that channel strip, anything in that channel strip will be affected by the effect. Video is a whole other ballgame. I got to talk to you more about that. So Eric says, Resolve batch sync has been better than Pluralize lately, really. So Pluralize is having a problem with M1 or the operating system updating? I don't know. These are two I see all the time. Well, this is one specifically, dupe detection. Absolutely. It's not on my top 10, but certainly there. But, however, two timelines open. Absolutely two timelines. I'd love to be able to drag from one timeline to the next. Final Cut Pro, as it is now, you got to go back button, forward button. No, that's the wrong direction. Forward button, forward button, forward button. You have no way to knowing which timeline is on which button. I'm always confused, especially if I have 3 or 4 timelines open. Resolve has the ability to open two timelines, one over top the other. I think Premiere does as well. I don't know about Avid. So that's absolutely, I'd love to have two timelines. Drag and drop from each one. Maybe have 2 different versions of the same one and you could see them. Absolutely. And he says, advanced color grading like Finale Pro. What kind of things are missing in Final Cut Pro's version of color grading? What kind of things we'd like to see? Then we had the big update with the color wheels. The color board, I mean, some people like it better than the wheels. For a couple of adjustments, yes. I can see it for a couple of adjustments. But by and large, I like wheels a lot better. And then we got curves and other things. Brandon says, I'm pretty new to Final Cut Pro, but I wish I had a button to mute a track the way Premiere does. So the problem is it doesn't have tracks. So you can mute a roll if your audio is all in one roll. You can mute that. But there's no way to mute a track. Now, look, I'd like to have, like LumaFusion has, the best of both worlds. I'd like to have magnetic timeline and all the things that it brings with it, but I'd also like to be able to lock a track in place so the magnetic timeline does not affect that specific track. Now, here's what I do. I put an anchor clip all the way at the beginning of the main track, the magnetic timeline track. Make it 1 frame, 10 frames. I put a slug in there, whatever. And then I'll anchor a second storyline to that anchor clip. So when I do anything in the main timeline, that timeline is not affected. However, one of the things that I have in my top 100 list is when you select the secondary storyline or the primary storyline, there's no parameters in the inspector. So you can't mute that entire track. It would be nice if you could, the storyline tracks, whatever. When they introduced Final Cut Pro, they talked about tracks. They said, tracks, get out of the way. I remember specifically. So you can call them what you want. Incoming call declined. Spam calls, I love them. Sometimes it says spam. Sometimes it says call from the United States. Okay, I'm not taking either one of those calls. So pretty sure the mute a track the way Premiere does, you'd have to mute a audio roll. That's the way you could do that, or select all the clips, which is a pain in the butt. If you got a long timeline, you got to drag and lasso all the way across. One of the features I'd like to see is select all forward and select all reverse of the timeline. Logic has that feature. I use it all the time. Keyboard shortcut, select everything from this point forward on this track. Select everything this point forward on all the tracks. All the storylines in Final Cut would work. I'd love that ability. And you can, mute everything. You mute a track, a video track, an audio track by hitting the V key. Not a track, a clip. Hit the V key. You can't mute the entire storyline that way. But I'm sure there's a way to do it in rolls. Tim Whitmore says, I'm glad you hear you discussed Topaz. I'm seriously considering this. It looks amazing in all the demos. Here's what it is. It's denoising, and it has multiple algorithms It's artificial intelligence, AI, a lot of different ones you can choose. The one of them is very specific. I forget what it's called, but it has very specific settings you can do. The other ones have a couple of settings, and you can choose deinterlace, you can choose whatever. But you can take 4 of those different settings, 3 of them, and the original, put them up on screen. It'll do a preview of 30 seconds for you, and then you can choose which one you like. And if you don't if you like one but not quite enough, you can go in and modify the settings or whatever. Then you can commit it to doing the whole thing. You can also set an in point and an out point if you have junk at the beginning and junk at the end, so you don't have to worry about doing the whole timeline, the whole clip, if you only want to do a portion. I'm telling you, I just happen to be doing 2, actually 3 documentaries right now, and all of them have some legacy mini DV or sometimes even VHS footage. And I take that little VHS video frame, blow it up 4 times so it's 200%, and denoise it all in one go. It's always better quality than the original small frame, but now it's 4 times the resolution. Now it takes a long time. So it takes about 4 times real time. So if you have an hour clip, it's going to take about 4 hours. It's not a plugin for Final Cut Pro. It's a standalone product, but I really, really like it. I like telling you about products that I like. Nobody's paying me to do that. If I'm getting paid to talk about something, I will let you know, but that's not the case with Topaz. Recognize LTC audio would be huge. So LTC is longitudinal time code. I remember that from the tape days. So audio still comes in with LTC, Tony? Are you getting tapes that have that? I didn't realize, I haven't thought about LTC time code for a long time. Not since my first experiments with learning how to edit video at the local community television station. So Eric says that Topaz Video Enhanced didn't do well with a short film, 23 minutes I applied to. Did you try every single preset, AI preset? Because I'm telling you, I've never had it fail on me. You can't just choose one and say, do it. No, you have to go through and choose which one you like the best. And you have to go through and there's a newer one that has a whole bunch of presets. It has film grain, the size. It has a whole bunch of presets. That's the one I use the most, but sometimes the simpler ones with fewer presets does a better job. But you have to preview it. You can't just throw it on there and expect it to work. You got to interact with it. So I've never had it fail for me. Bezier curves for keyframes and an audio mixer. Audio mixer, absolutely. Now I've been told from people that know that audio mixer is there. It's been there for years. Like the scrolling timeline has been there since version 1. They haven't turned the scrolling timeline on yet, but they have an audio mixer. Apparently it's finished. Maybe we'll see it in 2022. I absolutely expect an audio mixer to be forthcoming. Oh, and open a compound clip in timeline. Thank you. Absolutely. Expand it in the timeline. Nothing drives me more bonkers than double-clicking on a compound clip. Boop. We're taking you to a place that has no relationship to the main timeline. It's going to its own timeline. It has no relationship to the timeline you're working on. Then you have to close it, do your adjustments, close it, and go back to the main timeline, and hopefully it's where you want it and stuff. Tony also says, rename any effect, copy, paste, mask between effects. So you're applying an effect to a mask, and you want to copy and paste those masks between the effects. I think that's what you're saying. Here's a big one I hear all the time. Rename color adjustments. Now, why can't you rename them? Is that amazing that you can't rename them? Let me pull that back up there. Let me lock that. Is that amazing that you can't rename them? Who thought of that in the Final Cut Pro team? I want to know who you are. Who thought you didn't have to rename multiple color adjustments? That's ridiculous. Of course you want to rename. What are they now? 1, 2, 3. Are they sequential? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, something like that? Oh boy. I've whitelisted my ringtones. I assign an appropriate ringtone for all my contacts. But if an unknown call comes in, my default ringtone is Monty Python spam song. Spam is owning over 90% of my calls. Look, first off, I love this iPhone 13 Pro Max. When these guys come in and it says spam or it says United States, I go in there and block each one. Block it so it can't be done. And whatever, it takes a while. You have to do them all. Isn't there an app that can say, well, I think you can say just allow your contacts in, but then once in a while you'll miss a call from somebody who's trying to call you and can't call you. Reply to LTC question, third-party Bluetooth sync of multiple cameras via Tentacle Sync. So Tentacle Sync uses LTC. That's interesting. Oh, of course it does. It's on tape. Of course, that's what it would use. That makes complete sense. So Final Cut doesn't recognize, I never thought about that, but doesn't Tentacle Sync have any kind of a app that translates LTC to something that Final Cut can read? What would you use, Tony? What do you use to do that? Dynamic linking with Apple Motion would be great. Yes, it would. Yes, it would. Listen, Final Cut Pro 7 was a great application in its day. One of the things you could do with Final Cut Pro 7 is place a motion project as a project in the timeline. You could take a motion project and place it in a Final Cut Pro timeline. And you right-click on that project in the Final Cut Pro timeline and say Open in Motion. It opens in motion, you do your adjustments, you save, and it's updated in the Final Cut Pro 10 timeline, Final Cut Pro timeline. It was the coolest feature. Another cool feature in Final Cut Pro 7 is you could drag, what do they call a compound clip in 7? They called it something else. But it was the same idea, you bunch of clips grouped together in one clip. You could drag it from the browser to the timeline. As you're dragging it, I think it was the command key. If you hold down the command key, instead of dragging the compound clip, whatever they called it, to the timeline, it would turn into all the individual clips. As you're dragging it, I think it's the command key. It might have been the option, but I think it's the command. Drag it from the browser to the timeline. As you're dragging it, hold the command key, and it changed from the compound clip, whatever they used to call it, to all the individual components, and then you drag those to the timeline. Very cool feature. Very, very cool feature. Expand compound clips on the timeline. Right. Just click it, and a drop-down timeline comes in, and do all your adjustments, and then it goes back up again. Not shooting over to another timeline. It has no relationship to the main timeline you're working in. That just doesn't make any sense. I realized when they first incorporate some of these things that maybe they had to make compromises. Maybe they had to make compromises because the code, or they're not quite sure how to do this without affecting something else. That's completely understandable. Final Cut Pro is 11 years old in June. 11 years old. The last 3 years, there hasn't been much development on it. There's been, a couple of important things, but not much compared to the years prior. The last 2 or 3 years compared to the prior 7 or 8 years, there's no comparison. In the development, it was much more in the previous 1.0 through version 4. Reply, I sync Tentacle Sync, multicam clips, and resolve. Oh, there you go. Build a teleprompter into iPhone camera app. Teleprompter into the iPhone camera app. So if you're using the iPhone camera for like a live stream, you'd have a teleprompter in there. I've got a couple of, let me just pull this up to show you. Speaking of that exact same thing, let me do this, turn hiding on. There is, that didn't work. There is a teleprompter app you can use on your Mac that it's like invisible, transparent screen with text. It's like a clipboard, but it's transparent background. You can put it right in front of your face as you walk, like I'm looking at this camera, and you can do the teleprompter that way. It's right below the camera. I really like that. I've tried that a few times. A motion kind of keyframe editor. Bingo. Not a motion kind of keyframe editor. Steal the motion keyframe editor. Just take that code, grab it out of Motion, and option drag it over to Final Cut Pro, please. That keyframe editor is much, much better in Motion. Final Cut Pro, I always say it's like keyframing on an Etch-a-Sketch. Maybe nobody knows what an Etch-a-Sketch is, but I do. I'm old enough. Now look at this. Let me do. We've had the conversation about Final Cut Pro 7, so I've posted this on a few groups this week. I'm getting rid of all my Final Cut Pro, Logic Pro, Soundtrack Pro 2, Final Cut Pro 7 motion books, DVD Studio Pro 3. Do you remember that? Do you remember that? Yes. I am cleaning out this office. I've made more room behind me. I've moved the panels back that I have. I've moved them back. I have another 18 inches of space behind me. You really can't tell, but it's there. When I have a co-editor come up from DC, we're working on a documentary, and now that things are settling down with COVID, he's going to come back up, and we're going to continue our editing of our documentary. As a matter of fact, we both bought the exact same MacBook Pro. The exact same one. He wanted to get one in about like September. I said, no, don't get it. Listen to me. Wait for this new one. There's no sense on spending money on an old one. Wait for the new one. And now he's really glad that he waited. He got his like around Christmas. So that's what you're going to get. So anyway, it would scroll as fast as the recognized spoken text. Yes, that would be very cool. I don't use a teleprompter unless I'm doing a tutorial for the most part, or if I have a lot to say. When I'm talking to you, I don't have anything in front of me. I'm just talking off the top of my head. Usually I have a list of things I want to talk about, which I have somewhat today. Big VU is a great app. I have to check into that for teleprompter. Yes, DVD, no less. DVD Studio Pro. Do you guys remember DVD Studio Pro? And we spent all that time doing menus and doing graphics and stuff and doing the DVD, and it was only standard def. It wasn't even HDV or, Blu-ray. I actually have Blu-ray. I don't use a teleprompter unless I'm doing a. What the heck's going on here? If I have a lot to say. I don't know what I did, but I got to keep monitoring that video. It just came on by itself. I didn't do anything. It just started playing. But DVD Studio Pro, we spent a lot of time. The audio's back. I'm sorry. I switched scenes and the audio is muted. Let me just fix that right now. So now it's back on this scene. So I have scenes in Ecamm Live, and it's like Photoshop layers is what it is. And I mute the scenes I don't think I'm going to need audio for, and sometimes I switch scenes and forget to turn the audio on. But anyway, DVD Studio Pro is a very cool application. I really liked it. Remember color? Color in Final Cut Pro Studio had color. That was an advanced app at that time. I remember very specifically. So 720 by 480. Yes, that's what it was. That sounds about right. And we spent all that time on standard def video. That's amazing. Look, looky here. We had a sprinkling of snow, but you know what? Right now, outside there, it's 21 degrees. It's 21 degrees. That's unusual for daytime temperatures for around here on the East Coast. It was only 14 and 15 degrees at 10 o'clock this morning. I was cold. I had to go up to the bank to get some business done, and it was really, really cold. Yes, I used to love LiveType. Absolutely loved the simplicity of LiveType and the effect of how good the quality was. Really, really liked it. All right, I'm going to get rid of this guy. I've told these people before, don't be posting stuff on my channel. I'm going to, if you post things that don't make any sense, I'm deleting you from the channel. So there you go. I'm just going to take whatever. I'm going to take a little screenshot there, save it for myself. Yeah, so minus 32 Celsius here. Now I don't know what minus 32 Celsius, Christopher, that sounds very, very cold. That sounds very, very cold. Are you in Canada? Is that that's where you are? Daniel Suzuki says, I wish there was a way to try out Apple's Shake. They don't make Apple Shake anymore, right? And I doubt for sure that it runs on the M1 Max. So here, I've done this now. Let me go back there. It's ridiculous. Every time the iPhone is, there we go. Every time I turn on the iPhone, I need to rotate it. It's really, really strange. So this is the new angle I'm doing my desktop in. I did it by mistake and I kind of like it, but rather than just a square. While I'm here, look what I got here. I got a Samsung. Look at this. It's 2 terabytes. You guys all know this. You use them probably. This is USB-C. This is a 7. And this is a 3. That's how long I've had this. I had this when we were working on Off the Tracks. I was working on Off the Tracks with Brad Olson, and he would come up to my hotel room wherever we were, and he would dump footage from the day or whatever he did onto this on my old laptop. This, however, is the best one. This is a true Thunderbolt, if you can see that on there. You can't see it. This is a true Thunderbolt SSD. Thunderbolt enclosure and a 2 terabyte NVMe SSD. This is twice as fast, almost 3 times as fast as these two, which are USB 3. This one's USB 3.1 or 2. This is just regular USB 3. It's much, much faster, but I don't know. I just, if I go on the road, like if I go to NAB, I'll take those with me so I can dump footage from I don't know why it does that, but that's what it's doing. It's rotating by itself. I set it one way, and now it rotates. So this thing has I got the 4 terabyte version. So I have plenty of space on this when I go live. Plenty of space on that. My iPhone 13 Pro Max has 1 terabyte of storage space. So this has plenty of storage space on here. You know, I can film for 2 days, 3 days, probably the whole time at NAB, and I won't have to empty this, but I still will take it and back it up if it's important footage. This has 4 terabytes. Then I have 2, 4, 6 more terabytes here. So I have 10 terabytes of space. And look, it's nothing. 10 terabytes with the 4 terabytes is nothing to take. It's hardly anything at all. So that's what I plan on doing when I go to NAB. If I go to NAB, and also Final Cut Pro Creative Summit if I go there this year. So, feature requests, instead of linking between Logic and Motion, I want a workflow extension within Final Cut Pro for Logic so don't have another app running. Thoughts? But wouldn't that, I think it would have to be running even if you're just using a extension, I would think. I mean, I would think it'd be running. Look, this MacBook Pro, let's see what it does this time. I'm going to go back to preview mode. Let's see what it does this time. Oh, it's good. Good. There. So this MacBook Pro, I have the 32 GPU cores and 64 gigabytes of RAM. I've run all kinds of things. I run Logic, I run Pixelmator Pro, I run Final Cut Pro, Ecamm Live sometimes, and it doesn't run out of memory, whatever they're doing. Whatever they're doing with the memory, it doesn't run out of memory. Roz says, missed part and we'll have to catch up later. Thanks tons, absolutely. Round trip with Logic would be awesome, or better audio in Final Cut. I'd prefer not to have to go to Logic. I mean, when I'm doing podcasts, it's all audio. It goes into Logic, period. Logic is a digital audio workstation, as you all know. It's not a video editor. So better audio tools in Final Cut. This drives me nuts with Apple. Final Cut. You know the saying, audio is at least 50% of video. Good audio is at least 50% of good video. But you don't have 50% of items dedicated in Final Cut Pro to audio. You have 10%, whatever. This is another thing that aggravates me. This thing. The camera is fantastic. In the native camera app, there is zero audio controls when you're recording video with this thing. No volume control. Doesn't even have VU meters. Now, Apple, you know that good audio is 50% or more of good video, and you have no audio controls on your native camera app. I know all about Filmic Pro and all the third-party apps. I use the native camera app more if I'm doing run and gun stuff. If I'm doing a tripod shot, yes, I'll use Filmic Pro. I'm using Filmic Pro from Overhead Camera today. I love Filmic Pro. But the problem with Filmic Pro, the feature that it has that I need, is I can switch between all three of these cameras, 1, 2, and 3, with the native camera app while I'm filming live. I don't have to stop the camera, get a new lens. I can just click on the lens, it goes. Click on the lens, it goes. It has a 1 or 2 second little dissolve or does something, it goes to it. This is the only one that I use when I'm doing run and gun type stuff, and I have to zoom in and zoom out and do a wide shot, etc. So speaking of that, audio is king. Absolutely, audio is king, but I don't see the words working with the actions. I know audio is king, but I don't see the words happening with the actions. So let me. I was out doing exercise. I got up in the morning, was doing exercise. I have a stationary bike in my front room. I looked outside and it was snowing and it was beautiful. I said, well, I have to go out there and film it. So here's what I got with my iPhone. I'm just going to show you 30 seconds. Now, I combined frame rates. I didn't use ProRes because ProRes is restricted. I used slow-mo, which is 240 frames per second. I used 60 frames per second, 1080p, and then I used a 4K at 30 frames per second. This is 240 frames per second, slowed down. But, you know, it's gorgeous, gorgeous stuff. This was all filmed with the iPhone and available light. I went over to this location because it has outdoor lights, and when it snows, it's fantastic. Look at these shots. And when it snows, it's fantastic. So that video has like 2,000 or 3,000 views on my Facebook groups, local ones. Yes, no audio controls for recording with Camera App. Apple needs to give us stereo surround settings and Dolby Atmos recording. Yes. So they know that audio is king and they give us no audio controls. Not even a VU meter. Not even a VU meter in the native Camera App. That's ridiculous. Whoever's developing the Camera App, that's ridiculous. Get somebody that knows audio and get somebody in there that knows audio and take care of that. Minus 25 Fahrenheit. Minus 25. So minus 32 Celsius is minus 25. That's too cold, Christopher. You have to get out of there. Wherever that is, you have to get out of there, my friend. That's too cold. Yes, the iPhone 13 Pro Max is insanely good in low light. It is good. It's not, you know, if I did a lot of low light shooting, I'd want the Sony a7S III because I think that's still the king, isn't it? I think other cameras have different issues with low light, but there's things you can do. If I have noisy low light, I'll use Topaz to get rid of some of that stuff. So what else do we have here? Let me see what else we have. Oh, it's great for, Christopher says, good for quick B-roll. Absolutely. But the thing about the iPhone 13 Pro Max, any iPhone that I use, I have it with me at all times. It's always with me. It's with me at night. It's with me during the day. I take it, you know, if I everywhere I go, I take it. So it's always available just pick it up and you're ready to shoot. You're ready to shoot. Now the audio that you get with the native microphones, it's not bad if if you're talking and you hold it close to your face, it's fine. I use different audio setups, lightning port, plug into the lightning port with Pro Audio, or I just record into the Rode Wireless Go 2s, they record in the transmitters themselves, so I can use that audio to sync up too. So, what other features do we have? Yes, ProRes HQ in your pocket, mind blown. Yes, it does. Except when I shot the snow scene, I wanted to do slow-mo, 240 frames per second. Well, you can't do that with ProRes. You can't even do 60 frames per second, 1080p with ProRes. I don't believe. I think you had to go to H.264. So I wanted to shoot 60 frames per second, 1080p has better light than shooting slow-mo. When you're shooting slow-mo, it's not as much light. It's much slower, but it's not as much light. But like I said, I chose that location so I could, because it had lights, right? That's why I chose it. So let me show you one more video here. It's beautiful. This was available light, iPhone 13. So Marcos says, dupe detection in Final Cut Pro is a feature I miss every day, multiple times a day. They know about it. Now, what they're doing about it is the question. They know about it. They absolutely know about it. I know people have been requesting that for years and years and years. And still, I don't know. It's in this book. I have a book back here. This book is the official list. I have two things in here. As a matter of fact, it's being bookmarked. Feature requests for Final Cut Pro. Actually, three things. Feature requests for Final Cut Pro, bug fixes that Final Cut Pro needs to incorporate, and excuses that people give to why Final Cut Pro doesn't have a feature. I hear all the time, well, it was COVID. Well, it was M1, it was Metal 2. Oh, well, it was M1 Max. I have them all in this book right here. Book of Excuses. It has a sub-index with features and bug fixes. So any excuses I hear, I'll look them up and see if they're in there. If they're already in there, then it's been registered. But that's what I'm keeping here. That's what I'm keeping book here for. Book of Excuses why Final Cut doesn't have something. So, let me see. Sometime I just want to make a video just for the hell of it. I made this. This is one everyone's been waiting for, I know. Unboxing of the Apple polishing cloth. You've been waiting for it, right? Everybody has been completely on the edge of their seat waiting to get the Apple polishing cloth. Well, of course, you're paying $19 for the logo. I guess that's what I was trying to make a point of. I'd like to be able to break out the Scopes tab like in Resolve. So that's a good thing. 27 in Canada after tax. So I got it. Here it is. Here's the Apple logo. It's what you're paying the money for right here. So it's nice. It's a nice thick cloth, but I'm not sure if it's worth, $19, it doesn't, I spent $5,000 on the laptop. $19 is fine. I'm going to I'll use it to clean the screen. I don't know why the screen gets dirty. I don't touch it, but it still gets weird stuff on it. So I'll use it for that for sure. And oh, by the way, according to Apple, if the cloth doesn't work, this is what you get. 70% isopropyl alcohol, IPA. Apparently IPA is a medical grade first aid antiseptic. It's a higher quality isopropyl alcohol. So Apple says you can use this to clean things with that cloth. And then you can clean the cloth itself with dishwashing detergent and water. Do it in your hands, dishwashing detergent and water, rinse it out real good, and then let it dry for 24 hours, according to Apple. So I use a different cloth if I'm using the isopropyl alcohol. If something's that dirty, I just do a different cloth to clean it, and then I'll use this one on top as a final cleaning solution. So what else do we have? There's one here I want to show you. This has been going on forever with me. I know other people have talked about this as well. But I've had this on my list, and I'll show you the list in a minute. Drag and drop effects from the inspector to the timeline or the browser. Now, this would be customized effects, not regular effects. Regular effects, of course, you could just do from the you can just do from the effects browser. But when you customize an effect, the ability to just drag it, it's right there, and the image comes down when you drag it. Just bring the effect with it, and then we can drop it on a clip in the timeline, or take it and drop it on a bunch of clips in the timeline, or take it over to the browser and drop it on a clip. Once you customize something, doesn't that make sense? Or even take it from the browser. Take it from the inspector and drag it to the effects browser into a custom folder that you make. So I have several custom folders, but you can't drag and drop them right now. So I customize it in the inspector. It's what I want. It's adjusted this way, adjusted that way. Drag it into the effects browser, into a favorites bin or whatever. That'd be great. You can drag the image, right? The image is draggable. The image is draggable. So let me just text somebody real quick. Well, I can't do it now. It's too complicated. So what else do we have? What other kind of things do we have? Let's take a look here. So I love Final Cut Pro, but I have run into quite a lot of issues with third-party plugins not being well supported on M1, even if they claim to be supported. Have any of you run into this issue? I was leery about running into that issue with my MacBook Pro. Let me see if it's... Yay, it's good. I was leery about running into it with this. And at the beginning, there were a few plugins that weren't updated, like for my United Audio interface, this over here. Some of their plugins weren't quite ready, but now everything is running very smoothly, right? Like right now. Plugins, Ecamm Live, Final Cut Pro, Logic. Now, the thing is you have to realize is everybody is different. Their setups are different. Everybody... What works for one person might not work for somebody else. That's very obvious. I've had situations where I couldn't get something to work, and somebody else says, "Oh, well, you have to do X, Y, and Z," and I tried. Sometimes it works, sometimes it didn't. So just because it works for you and doesn't work for somebody else, or vice versa, it's a complicated world out there, isn't it? Solution to effects: just save it as a custom effect, drag that effect to the timeline, all properties would remain the same. No, I realize how to do that. I've been doing that for years. I don't want to. I want to just drag it from I don't want to go to another step. I don't want to have to click on save effect. Then another dialog opens up. Then you have to name the effect. Then you have to make sure that's going into the right folder. And then you have to close it. And then you have to go to the effects library. Was that 5 steps? I want to take it, customize it in the inspector. Here it is, exactly what I want. Click it, drag it to the timeline, or click it and drag it into the effects bin, my favorite effects bin. I realize how to get around that. I do it all the time. But I don't want to, that's too many steps. It's like when you're doing, here's something else. One of my top favorite things. You know the way you have the fade handles on audio in the timeline? I want fade opacity handles at the end of clips in the timeline. Do you know how many steps it is to get to the fade video now? Select the clip, step 1. Command V or Control V, step 2. Then you have to click on the opacity menu, step 3. Then you have to drag the handles, step 4. Then you have to Control V again. 5 steps to adjust the in and out opacity of a clip. instead of having opacity drag handles on the timeline like you do with audio fade handles on the timeline, and like Resolve has, and I think everybody else has, opacity fade handles on the video clip instead of 5 steps. Christopher says he wants a key command for it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Select the effect in the inspector, do a key command, it drops it on the whatever clip is under the timeline or whatever, under your playhead or whatever you have selected. So in other words, if I have 10 clips selected and they're all selected in the timeline, well, is that going to work? No, it's not. Because whatever you select in the timeline is going to be reflected in the inspector. That won't work. Got to think of something else. Maybe copying, I don't know. But anyway, why does the graphic go with the arrow? Why does the graphic go out of the inspector? You drag it and it goes with it. You would think they wouldn't even do that step, but they do. They do that step to bring the effects with it. Absolutely. So let's do something else here. I'm checking on something. So, yeah, I know about copy and effect to paste. I know that. I know all about that copy and paste effects. Once again, select the clip. Command C, copy. Select clips. Command V to paste. 4 steps. I'm going to just drag it from the thing and drop it on it. 2 steps. I know about copy and paste. I know how to save effects presets. I know all that. It just makes sense. You see it in the inspector. Let me drag that on top of a clip. Visually, it just looks great. A major update with lots of missing features and a less cute UI. So you think it's a little cartoonish? The UI is a little cartoonish? Is that what you mean by cute? I think sometimes it looks a little bit, it could be improved. Sure would be fast. It absolutely would be. So here's something for everybody to look at real quick. I'm going to just do this. Command B. So NAB. Okay, NAB. One of the criteria for me to go to NAB is Blackmagic has to be there. If Blackmagic's not going to be there, I'm much less likely to go. So you think it's a little cartoonish? The UI is a little Look, it's turned on again by itself. The audio turned on. So if Blackmagic's going to be there, then I'm much more likely to go this year, 2022. It's about 3 months away. 2 months, February, March, 3 months. 3 months. February, March, April. 3 months. Things hopefully will continue to get better, and we'll be able to go to NAB without a lot of restrictions. So if Blackmagic is going, I am much more likely to be going. Right? Let's see if Blackmagic is going. Let's just take a look. Look at this. Blackmagic Design is going to be at N302. So that's one of the criteria for me personally. For me personally, that's one of the biggest people that I want to go, because they have such a big, expansive setup there and lots of nice products, and I like Resolve a lot, and I like some of their cameras and stuff. I don't own any Blackmagic cameras yet, but I like them. I don't expect Apple to be there like the fiasco they had last year. They first were listed and then they took them off. I don't expect Apple to be there, but it'd be nice if somebody from Apple. Atomos is going to be there, Audio-Technica. Now, I don't see Avid there yet. Backblaze. I love Backblaze. I use it all the time. It saved my bacon a few times. But anyway, yeah, that's what's going on so far. Let's go back to the home screen there. So they're just getting started. April 23rd to the 27th. Starts on Sunday this time. Starts on Sunday this time. All right, let me go back to this place here and delete this guy from the channel. Once again, you post nonsense on my page, on the YouTube site, I'm going to just delete you from the channel. You're not going to be able to come back. I'm not listening to your nonsense. This is some Russian guy posted some nonsense on there. So I don't even know what he's talking about, but I don't want to, in case it's something in Russian that I don't understand, I'm not going to put up with it. So drag and drop properties is something you can do in Motion, so it would be cool if Final Cut Pro had it too. Yeah, I mean, that's not my top thing. It's not my top thing. Let me go over a few of my top things. If you don't know, this is a site right here that I've had forever. 101 requests for Final Cut Pro. Of course, we know the scrolling timeline. This thing has been viewed 12,000 times. This is what drives me crazy. iMovie for iPad has a scrolling timeline. What drives me nuts is, in what world does it make sense that the timeline scrolls off the page? That doesn't make any sense. It makes zero sense. Even if you're not going to use a scrolling timeline, at least should be paging. Logic, Motion, both have their own scrolling timelines. Not a problem. They have them. They are pro apps. Here it is in Motion. You just turn it on right there. They call it something different. And it scrolls in Motion. Pro app by Apple. Yep. Scrolls. No problem. Scrolls. Logic has two. You can have two scrolling timelines at two different zoom levels in Motion. You can have a zoomed in and a zoomed out one, and both of them will scroll at the same time. It also has audio waveforms. So when I'm doing audio, long form audio, I absolutely want to see the waveform under the playhead. I don't want the playhead to be scrolling off the screen. That drives me crazy. I'm not worried about a 1-minute video or a 2-minute video. But anyway, Pro Audio features. Audio mixer with master volume control, AU plugin inserts, etc. Project live scrubbing in the browser. You can't, Final Cut Pro is 11 years old. 11 years old, and you cannot scrub a project in the browser. You can scrub it in the share menu. When you bring up the share dialog, you can scrub the project there. You can scrub a compound clip in the browser. You can scrub a multicam clip in the browser. But to this day, after 11 years, you cannot scrub a project in the browser. Absolutely amazing. Let me see. Would love a delinking feature when you option drag a clip or text so they don't mirror each other. A delinking. I'm not sure exactly what you're saying there. Delinking. Oh, a delinking, you mean unlinking. I see what you're saying. I'm thinking of the letter D. So delinking, unlink feature, when you option drag a clip or text so they don't mirror each other. Gotcha. So let's go back to this. There we go. Let's go back to this roll space mixer, true round tripping integration with Motion, a clip logger. So when I log things, I find myself I understand what you can do in the browser, but it's not as sophisticated as the timeline. It's not. So my idea is this. You click on a clip and you have an option, a mode, that it opens in its own timeline where the timeline is below. And you can do skimmable clip, film strip selection, keywords, favorites, selections. Like in the photograph, it's specifically just for logging clips. Set markers, do favorite selections, range selections in the timeline. The browser timeline, even if I stretch it all the way across, it's just clunky to me. I don't have those options. JK&L as much, zooming in and out, for example. Regular timeline features, but just for logging clips specifically. So anything you did to that specific clip logger timeline would be reflected on the clip you have selected in the browser. That's something I'd like to see. We talked about this earlier, a better keyframe editor, advanced keyframe adjustments options, a clipboard manager with history to remember all copied and pasted items for reuse. That'd be cool. Here's something that doesn't affect me, but I hear it so much, BRAW support. Does anybody want BRAW support? Nobody wants that, do they? Nobody wants that? Do you think we'll get that in 2022? I hope so. So what's going to happen in 2022? We're going to get a new version of Final Cut Pro sooner rather than later. My guess would be around NAB, March, April. And it would surprise me. It would be a nice, pleasant surprise to have a nice big feature update. Haven't had a big feature update for years, 3 years. All we hear is excuses. Not from the Final Cut Pro team. People saying things. COVID, Metal 2, M1. Okay. Everybody has to go through all those things. Blackmagic has to do Metal 2. Blackmagic has to do, they have to deal with COVID. They have to deal with M1. Look at all the advances they've done in this same time period. So here's the thing. I have tempered my expectations of what I think the Final Cut Pro team is going to be accomplishing and doing. Doesn't mean I've given up hope. It just means they have to raise or lower the bar that I have for expectations. The bar used to always be up here, especially around the summit, maybe down here at NAB, up here for the summit, down here at NAB. Now it's like mid-level, even keel. Doesn't surprise me when they bring an update out with some things. It doesn't, it's just not very exciting and not very many. It's it's stagnated for the last couple of years. Whatever their reason is, doesn't mean I've given up hope. I'm not. And they can raise this back up here where it used to be. But right now it's not up there, so it's down here. I think we'll see Final Cut Pro 11 in June. We could see something. I don't know if they're ready for Final Cut Pro 11. Who knows? I think Object Tracker was a big update. No, I disagree with you. Object Tracker was a big single feature. Not a big update. A big update has lots of features. Lots of features. That was one single feature. Yes, it's big, but it's a single feature. The other feature they had was cinematic mode, okay? You have to have an iPhone 13 for that, so it didn't affect a lot of Final Cut Pro editors. So it's a big single feature, but it's not a big update. I'm talking about a big feature update where we get a lot of features. Things we're talking about, dupe detection, better keyframe editor, BRAW support, browser improvements. There's so many things. So let's go back to the web page here. Browser improvements, more distinctive and accurate playhead locator. I don't know what's going on. I do Shift F in the timeline, It jumps to the browser, but I don't know where the playhead is. I can't see it. It's not highlighted. I don't know what clip it's on. What kind of design is that? I don't know. So something else, library templates. I'd like to design a library the way I want it. I use external media, so I'd want to maintain that. I have different, folders for video, some for pictures, some for text messages or text things I want to bring in. And I like to be able to go File, Make Template. Copy this structure, copy the folder structure, copy everything I have, external media, all my settings, and make me a new library template in Final Cut. Now, I realize you can do that with that one app that does it pretty well. So these are just requests, the things that can be done. I'd like to be able to click on a marker and move it in the timeline. I'd like to be able to select clips in the timeline and color code them, and then sort by colors in the browser. So if I do a group of selection of clips and make them all red, this is Sam talking, Sam dialogue, and I do another selection of clips over here, and these are Tony clips, and I can look at I'm visual. I'm looking at the timeline. I can instantly see these are Sam clips, these are Tony clips. When I'm doing my podcast, I can do that in Logic, exactly that. I can select one clip, a group of clips, boom, they're all color-coded. And I can look at my timeline instantly and see everything broken down into colors. Same in the browser. So color coding of clips is another thing I like to see. Report all our requests direct to Apple. Here's what you do. Go to, very simple to remember, fcpx.tv. Right? fcpx.tv, look what it says. Send your requests, bug reports, or feedback to the Final Cut Pro team, and all you do is click on this link, and it takes you right there to report. fcpx.tv, and you go right there. There's the top request that I'm going through right now. These are some of the ideas I have. Okay, adjustable secondary and primary storyline parameters. So now when you select a storyline, whether it's a primary or secondary, there's no parameters to adjust. Mute would be one that I like to see, or not mute, turn it on and off. Mute it with the V key, but you can't do that. Why not? Don't know. And here we go. One of the ones Tony said, compound clips expand for editing in place in the timeline. That just makes common sense. I don't know why it hasn't been incorporated. Once again, we're not dealing with a brand new version 1 application like we were at the beginning. 11 years old in June. 11 years old on June the 27th. Here's one, just customized drag and drop what we talked about, effects browser improvement, save, rename, make favorite, load, and organize transitions effects generators in the effects browser via drag and drop directly in Final Cut. I know I can save effects preset and it takes me to another dialog, and I name it, and I choose a folder. Now I'm going to drag and drop. I'm going to go to the button. I'm using an effect here, drag it to my favorites bin, right in the, just click, drag, click, drag, click, drag. And then I can customize them as I want to. And here's, we talked about this, Keyframeable Opacity Bar with fade handles directly visible on a timeline. Video clip like volume bar on audio clips. Instead of 5 steps that it takes now to get to fade handles with Command V, click on the opacity link, drag the handles, Command V again, and then you're back to your clip. So the ability to lock a clip, here's one of the things that I realized when I was talking to LumaFusion. I said to them, you have an advanced magnetic timeline. It's more advanced than Final Cuts because it's magnetic, but it also has I said the ability to lock a clip in place in the timeline. Not quite accurate. She said what it does, it disconnects the clip from the magnetic timeline. So this clip up here on layer 3, you can disconnect from the magnetic timeline. So the magnetic timeline, you can do all your scrambling. This clip stays right where you left it. And then you can always relink it later if you wanted to. So that's kind of like locking, but it's just a little different, but the same effect. Same effect. There's the backyard once again. It's cold. It's 21 degrees Fahrenheit. So, do you have any more feature requests? Yes, Object Tracker was a big feature, but that doesn't make it a big update. I like the Object Tracker. I haven't used it that much yet, and I realize there's a lot of work. It is 2D, though, not 3D like the more sophisticated ones. It'd be amazing if you could open up your Final Cut project in Logic, completely speed up my workflow. You can open a movie in Logic. You can open a movie and you can export Final Cut Pro XML. But you can't really go back and forth between Logic and Final Cut because the XML that Logic uses is an old version XML, and it doesn't retain video changes or video information. It only contains audio. Now, maybe they'll change that going forward. That would be fine with me. I'm an audio guy. I come from audio background before I did any video editing. I had a recording studio, reel-to-reel decks, and I've been editing video longer editing audio longer than I've been video. So, yes, that would be nice. If I have a 2 or 3 minute excuse me. If I have a 2 or 3 minute timeline, I don't go to Logic. I deal with audio in Final Cut. It's fine. Can you do audio in Final Cut? Sure. Is the audio tools in Final Cut as good as Logic? No way in hell. No way in hell are they as good as the ones in Logic. Nor should they be. Final Cut's a non-linear video editor. Logic is a digital audio workstation. Logic is much more sophisticated for audio than Final Cut. Final Cut can do audio fine. It's not what I prefer. Feature request, import and export of Dolby Atmos master files. I'm not sure. I know what Dolby Atmos is, but I'm not sure what the master files. I guess that has all the information with it. All right. What else do we have? An audio units manager. Good idea. That's a good one. I never thought about that. Some Logic plugins make Final Cut Pro get stuck on authentication. So when you add new audio unit plugins and you open up your digital audio workstation, whether it's Pro Tools, whether it's Digital Performer, whether it's Logic, when it first opens up, it scans the audio unit, the new audio unit plugins. It scans them and makes sure they're compatible with your operating system and your version of your digital audio workstation. So I think that's what you mean. A manager, you can maybe turn plugins on and off. Logic has one you can turn plugins on and off so they don't load when you load in Logic and stuff. So that would be very cool, absolutely. Let's go back to our web page here. How about this one? Collapse multicam option. When you're done editing your multicam, you can collapse it. Seems like a good feature to me. Color coding clips, video clips, audio clips. One of the neat things about LumaFusion that has, you can color code clips in LumaFusion. This is when I first realized how effective it would be, besides just visually looking at a clip and seeing the red clips, blue clips, purple clips, yellow clips, pink clips. And I'm not talking about roles, because that's, once again, very clunky to get in and out of roles and do color. Just select the clip color code. Select the clip and be able to just click on a color patch and it colors it. In LumaFusion, I don't know, in Resolve you can do this as well. So if I have a group of red clips, I can search for the color red in the browser and all the red clips will come up. And I can search for the blue clips. I can just search for the word blue and all the blue clips will come up. And I can just click in the search field and click yellow and all the yellow clips will come up. Very, very effective. Resolve does that and LumaFusion both do that. How about this one? Select multiple edit points to perform an action on all of them, like extend edits to playhead. Can't do that in Final Cut Pro 10. Workarounds. Here's what we're talking about. Option to attach a clip compound clip store line to any other clip. That's kind of like, the main thing is to detach it from the primary. But if you could attach two secondary storyline clips to each other and detach it from the primary, that'd be very cool. So if I drag the one secondary storyline clip, the other one comes with it. I'd like to see that as well. Here's another one. I see this all the time. Media management options to compact the library event or project by getting rid of any unused media with handles option. That would be very nice. Do we have enough? I think we have enough for today. If you have any more, just go ahead and say them. I need to figure out how to discard unused clips from my drive. Does anybody know of a way to do this? Unused clips from your drive. First off, back up your library before you do that. I see people that have problems. Something got corrupted, something does this, and I say use your backup. You should always back up your media before you start editing your main project. I have at least 2 copies. I have a RAID, a 56 terabyte RAID 5. That's my working drive. But I have 1 or 2 copies of everything on separate drives before I start editing. I use Hedge. I love Hedge for that. Makes my copies for me. I feel good. That is to delete directly from Final Cut. I think this may be possible, but I'm really a newbie when it comes down to it. So just check on Google, do a Google search, or check on YouTube. You can delete. You can throw stuff in the Final Cut Pro trash, but you'd have to right click, and you have to be careful. Don't do anything until you've made a duplicate of your library. So if you make a mistake, you have a complete copy. But you could right click on a clip in the browser, reveal in Finder, go to the Finder and delete the clip. But that's not going to give you unused media. That's not getting rid of unused media. I like to see it native in Final Cut. I'd love to see ray traces lighting for 3D text and graphics. We don't have that? Ray traces, really? Huh. I guess we don't have that. Here's something else I'd like to see, and I know they have third-party apps for this. So I'd like to see a single master searchable database across all previously opened libraries. So right now, you can search in any library that's open in Final Cut. But I'd like to see a library that catalogs your library. I'd like to see a feature that catalogs your library, and if you opened it, Final Cut will keep a basic idea of what's in it, whether the library is mounted in Final Cut or not. Here's one that I got from Resolve, because they do this. Shift-Z serves as a double shortcut by zoom to fit the first time you do it, and you hit Shift Z a second time, and it goes back to the previous zoom level. Shift Z once, zooms your timeline so you can see fits it in the view. Shift Z again, it goes back to the previous zoom level and the previous playhead location. Do you want to remember a second keyboard shortcut? It's right there. Shift Z once, Shift Z twice. It works for me. All right, I think we're going to who would like better timeline markers, more colors, more types, easily movable? Yes. Yes, all those things. More colors for sure. Easily movable, click and drag. What's the right word? It seems visually you should be able to click and drag on the timeline marker, but you can't. You have to use keyboard shortcuts. That could also work for the 2-finger double tap to fit the timeline. Absolutely. Absolutely. I got my Trackpad 2, Magic Trackpad 2 right up here that I use. It depends on what I'm doing, but I use it sometimes instead of the mouse. So this is the 2. Magic 2, is that what it is? Oh, it's got the logo on it. No wonder it costs so much. Apple logo is what you're paying for some of these things like the cloth. Yes, that would be very cool. Double tap, fit the timeline, double tap, go back to your zoom level, the same playhead location. So you go zoom in, zoom out, same keyboard shortcut for both. We're just got so many good features. The Final Cut Pro team, I know they watch this all the time, and we love the Final Cut Pro team. Love them. Waiting on your next surprise us, please. I'm right about here. Get me up to back up here. This is the time to do it, 2022. I don't want to keep being down here. I'm not one of these people who say, oh, I'm going to jump to Resolve. Speaking of Resolve, let me just pull up one, see if I can find that one thing. Where is, oh, I know what I can do. Let me just check over here real quick. So Resolve has a whole bunch of beginner classes for Blackmagic, has a whole bunch of beginner classes for people. Let me see if I have that here. Coming up, let me see. Here we go. This is fantastic. Fantastic. Blackmagic Design announces Winter Spring 2022 DaVinci Resolve online training schedule for beginners. So they have all these beginner courses. They start, you register here, Zoom meeting, January 31st, February 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. I'm going to do these myself so I can concentrate on just getting more into Resolve. I'm mostly interested in the editing, the editor. That's what I'm mostly interested in. Let me see. There's one other thing I want to show you we should be talking about. So let me just see here. Well, I've got you. One more thing. Let me see if I can find this. Well, I'll tell you what it is. What it is, here we go. This is what I wanted to show you. This is a big one because right before this came out, I was saying that how good the Resolve situation was with training. I mentioned it on Twitter. Pull this together a little bit. I mentioned it on Twitter, and the next thing I know, the new Apple Pro training and certifications from Future Media Concepts, they're going to have these 3 to start with. FCP Certified Social Pro, FCP Certified Video Pro, and FCP Certified Post-Production Pro. Brand new certification classes, exams for Final Cut Pro with Future Media Concepts. They're returning in 2022. So that'll be very interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing what they're doing there. Let me just check something here. All right, I think we're doing pretty good. I'm going to do those too. Never hurts to use alternative platforms. Exactly. So my first NLE of choice absolutely is Final Cut. It just has, even though it's getting getting a little stagnant in its development cycle, the features, some of the features that it has got me hooked. The magnetic timeline, I like that a lot. The live skimmer, the way the live skimmer works, I really, really like that. But there's other things it doesn't have, is the feature requests we've gone over today, plenty of those things. But I like Resolve. Every time I use it, I like it. I like it a lot. So I'll be going to some of those classes while we're waiting on a Final Cut Pro update. Now, here's the thing. If Final Cut Pro was updated right before those classes came out and there were a bunch of tutorials everywhere, that could be a problem. Because I want to spend more time with Final Cut at that point. Roz says, I have to run, but thank you for all your hard work. Thank you, everyone. I think we're going to get out of here. I'm going to, what time is it? 3:41 here at my time. I'm going to get out of here. I just wanted to come on today. First off, I'm redoing my office. Like I said, you really can't tell, but those wood paneling they're back about 18 inches further than they used to be. So it's a lot further. I've also added this little roll thing here. I used to have a guitar over here. This is a little amplifier, actually, battery powered amplifier. This is a back scratcher. This is one of the most important tools you can have in your editing suite, so you can scratch your back if necessary. This is my emergency microphone that if I need to enter this really well, really fast, I can put this in. This is Elgato Wave 3, which I really, really, really like for an alternative. I'm talking through a TLM, a Neumann TLM 103 right here, and let's see if it does it right. Hey, it does it right. United Audio interface. This is an Apollo Twin X using plugins that are fantastic, and they're also fantastically expensive. So that's it. Jean-Baptiste says hello and bye. Yes, I'm going to get out of here today. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I appreciate it. I do these shows for you. I enjoy doing them, and as long as people come and enjoy them, that's fantastic. We'll take one more peek out here in the backyard before the sun sets. Not much activity at the bird feeder. You can see it's a little bit of sprinkling of snow. It's mostly ice. Very slippery. But as I get older, I don't really care for the snow that much anymore. I used to like it more. But now I have to go out there and I got to shovel snow, and I got to do the snowblower. Let me tell you something. The snowblower saves time, but it's a lot of work. It's heavy, and you got to twist it and to twist you and whatever. It's a lot of work. So it can take me hours to do my driveway. So prefer not to snow too much. Thank you, Richard. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for stopping by. As you know, my name's Richard Taylor. You can find us over there at Final Cut Pro TV. I mean, that's what this is. This is Final Cut TV. Final Cut Friday. This is Final Cut Friday. That's correct. So the other thing is, don't forget, YouTube.com, Richard Taylor TV. That's one of the places you can go. And turn that off. And the other place you can go, let me see if I have that here. Yes, We have a Facebook group. But I got to turn this one off first. Facebook group. Facebook.com/groups, Final Cut Pro Radio TV. Combination of the podcast and these live streams. You can go on there and chat. We're pretty, we want just professionals there. We don't want any nonsense over there whatsoever. And don't forget, subscribe. Go to the Richard Taylor YouTube and subscribe. That's where you would go. Subscribe. Subscribe, ring the bell, whatever you got to do. That way you'll know when we go live. Now, here's my plan right now. If there is NAB, if Blackmagic is going to be there, if I feel safe at that point, 3 months from now, 3 months, things could get better. I will go to NAB and I will cover it. And I'll have multiple live streams every day. I'll collect clips during the day. I'll play them at night when I go back to the hotel room. I'm not a drinker, so I don't go out drinking and partying. I'll have dinner and I'll go back to the hotel room typically. I might go out with some friends to have dinner, but I don't drink. So I'll go back and assemble things. I'll do live streams from the hotel room, talk about whatever Final Cut Pro related is going on for the day, whatever Blackmagic has released, because I really like Blackmagic a lot. I think they're a fantastic company, very, very innovative. And I'll report live if things are going better, continually get better from this point on. We should be in good shape for NAB. I do not want to interview people with masks on. Okay, I don't want to do that. I understand I'm not getting into the debate about masks. I'm just saying I don't want to interview people with masks on. It's muffled. It doesn't look good. It's not a good look. I'll keep 6 feet away, whatever I need to do. But I want to be safe, of course. So we'll see how things go as it progresses. I haven't made any arrangements yet, but I'll probably be making arrangements in February, especially if Blackmagic's going to continue to be there. They have a good show. And the thing is opening on Sunday this year. The first day is Sunday. Used to be Monday. So I don't know if Blackmagic's going to do their big presentation on Sunday. Don't know. So far, they're going to be there. Is there going to be any Final Cut Pro stuff there? Could be. Not by Apple. Well, the Final Cut Pro team, but probably a third party. LumaForge. Last NAB, they were there. Prior to that, they had 2017 and 2018. Apple was there in the convention center itself doing official Apple Final Cut Pro presentations. I'd like to see that again. Steve Martin used to have a FCPX guru gathering after the Apple presentation. I doubt if he's going to do that. He didn't do it last time, but somebody else can take the mantle up. Maybe OWC, because LumaFusion is now a part of OWC. We'll have to wait and see. Brandon says, thanks for the tips about using roles to mute audio. I think by using custom roles, I can make it work for what I need to do. There you go. That's the way to do it. All right, everyone. My name's Richard Taylor. I'm going to be getting out of here. I appreciate everybody stopping by. It's been a blast. And I will see if there's any news about Final Cut Pro. I'll try to come on within an hour or two. Subscribe to the channel over there, youtube.com, Richard Taylor TV. That way you'll be notified whenever I go live. So click that little bell, whatever the heck it is, notification bell. I appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by. See you next time.